Hey, Gillface. Hey, Kelly. So much working 10.5 hours. Ugh. That sounds miserable, Kelly. I actually remember first job I had 10-hour shifts. 40 hours a week, 4 days a week, 10 hours shifts. Hey, Compbrook. Hey, Nanaki. Wasn't the internet. My internet worked just fine. It's just fucking YouTube wasn't working for me on my computer for some reason. Are they miserable? Yeah. The job I had back then, it was 10 hours a day plus 1 hour break. Or 1 hour lunch. 2:15. 2:15s? Or is it 3:15s? No, 2:15s, I think. 2 15-minute breaks and a 1 hour lunch. Hey, Compbrook. Jordan says my schedule is vexing. I mean, partly I don't really... Like, yeah. She'll arrive when she's ready. Fair enough. Yeah, on my days off, I don't really keep a schedule. Yeah, it's okay. Hair. She'll arrive when she's ready. That's fine. Yeah, I'll give it a few minutes. I'll give like 10-15 minutes for people to show up. You'll fall asleep not lying into my plane? That's fine, Kelly. That's fine. Lots of women find me exhausting. I'm real good at putting women to sleep. Fashionably late or unfashionably early? Usually, I mean, like, for my streams... Hey, Jordan! For, like, streaming, I'm usually later than I intend. Because I don't actually have a schedule. For, like, if I've got a, meeting or anything, like, if I've got any sort of appointment, I try to be early. Hey, Joanna. Damn near killed you last night. Fucking internet, fucking computer, Jordan. I don't know what the fuck was going on, but for some reason my computer did not want to stay connected to YouTube. By the way, just in case anyone missed it, that what I was doing yesterday, or what I was doing earlier, what I did a couple minutes ago, that thing I was acting out, chloroform. You know, take a bottle of chloroform, pour it into a rag, and then just put the rag over a woman's face. So I was acting out chloroforming someone. Hold just my computer. I got it shortly, I think very shortly after I moved in with Chantel. didn't I? It's honestly not that old. It's maybe 3 years old. Three or 4 years old. YouTube in general has been weird lately. I do have a newer computer that I should probably make use of, but does this rag smell like chloroform to you? Sometimes it wheezes like it's on its last leg. I mean, it's always been loud. Like, as long as I've had this laptop, the fan has been loud. I'm pretty sure that one has a pretty loud fan too, frankly. I don't know. It's just some laptops have loud fans. I use the fan for white noise. Yeah, there you go. It's comforting. Diagnosed ASMR. That's fine. Give it a couple more minutes just to see if anyone else pops in. There probably won't be anyone popping in, but I'll give it another minute or so. Who's Amber? Hey, Anunnaki. Order? Nah, I did groceries. So I picked up some wings from the hot food counter. I'm trying to think of fictional characters I know with the name of Amber. Closest that comes to mind is Rachel Amber. I know there are... I'm sure I've seen characters with the name of Amber, just not very often. And none of them come to mind. I can't think of any of them offhand. Your dating app idea? I'm not really interested in dating right now, Joanna. It's just not something that I'm particularly interested in at the moment. Well, I know her. I've heard of her. Just tried port wine cheese for the first time. Cool, cool. Am I scared of commitment? Not particularly. Veggies with ranch for the first time? Yeah, veggies with ranch are good. I have no fear of commitment. It's not something I give a shit about right now. She diagnosed herself with ASMR? Ah. That's pretty funny. That's actually pretty funny. Committed to Asper a lot. Yep. Fun to just scroll together. My issue with that is that I feel like a lot of it would come down to mocking people, and I don't really want to do that. You know? Anywho's, probably not going to be anyone else coming in. What mystical music here. Kiana went to bed at the very culmination of delight, already dreaming of her wedding. She had been so active that she fell asleep from exhaustion. In her blissful dreams, the young Moor was surrounded by smiles. In reality, she was surrounded by 3 menacing silhouettes. The farmer's benevolent mask had dropped, replaced by a much sterner expression. La Bague de Corbeau. Anselme and Huguette whispered to their daughter. What are we doing now? I wanted to give her one last chance to extend my hand. Thoughts on people that troll a church? Depends on the church. Just like a regular standard church? Kinda shitty. But like some mega church or something like that, abso-fucking-lutely. I was confused malevolent and benevolent. Malevolent is bad. Because malice. Benevolent is good. It's bien. Scientology? Oh, absolutely. Troll the fuck out of Scientology. Troll Scientology all day, every day, man. Just... they deserve it. Any church that sort of caters to rich people, fuck them. Now, why do you give her one last chance? I extend my hand. We cannot wait any longer. The ceremony is imminent. He's what? We have to act, and quickly. What do you think, Fleur? She has to pay. The next morning, the heiress was in an excellent mood. Without further delay, the family went to the quay where the Lord's large vessel was supposed to raise anchor. Even though they had all arrived quite early, the crowd was already rushing to the pier, impatient to catch sight of the bride. Farmers were chatting enthusiastically to pass time. Who do you think the bride is? I think the prince is not chosen yet. It has been claimed that he was going to organize a great ball to find his wife. I bet it's the true purpose of this cruise. He's going to choose on the ship, and we'll only know who she is when they will return. Nonsense. I say that he has his eyes on a low-born girl, and that this is just a smokescreen to make it more acceptable. I wouldn't mind being chosen in that case. Same! Kiana let a satisfied smile as she was spying on the quarrels around her. Thinking that the moment was ideal, she pretended she urgently had to relieve a natural need to slip away. She then hurried in a remote corner of the key to make her magic chest appear. After much hesitation, she eventually selected the dress the color of time, which she donned in the blink of an eye. It's an okay dress. I don't know, I'm not overly keen on the dress. It's okay, but... I don't know. The outfit was much less dazzling than the dress the color of the sun, and much less sophisticated than the dress the color of the moon, but its ethereal appearance seemed perfect for a wedding. While admiring her reflection in the water, the young woman swirled with a triumphant look. Her voice quavering with emotion, she sighed and tapped her cheeks. Hey girl, can I make your magic chest appear? You know what's weird? Just noticing this. So I've got this stream, like, in order to be able to view the comments, I have the stream pulled up on my phone. Just so that I can look at the comments as I play. On my phone, this dress is a different shade than it is on my computer. Like, on my computer, it's sort of like it's kind of like a mix, like it's kind of like a somewhere between white and blue. Like, it's kind of weird, like it's maybe just like it's somewhere between white and blue. On my computer, it's more, on my phone, it's more purplish. Not sure if you can really get a good look at the shade there. But yeah, it's like it's a different color on my phone. I'm curious, what color are you guys seeing? Are you seeing it as more white or as more purple? Or like is more blue or is more purple? Like a light blue or a sort of light purple? What color does it look like to you? Because it's the blue, black, Lord deepened. Yours is light blue. You've got the purple one? That is so interesting. Really light purpley blue. Leaning more purple. It seems to be a lighting thing. Shadow parts look more purple, but to me, base is light blue. Yeah, and like the little tassels here, the little tassels under her hand, those are darker on my phone. So it seems to be just like a lighting thing, I guess, between different, the colors on my phone are just darker. The colors on my phone are just sort of like a darker color compared to on my computer. And like the crown is much You know, the crayon is a much deeper gold on my phone compared to like very light on my computer. So yeah, I guess that's just I never noticed that, but yeah, it's just on my phone. It's just a very my phone just has much deeper colors, darker colors compared to my computer. Actual color might be gray or some shit. Color theory is wild. And hell, even just her skin is way darker on my phone. On my computer, her skin is sort of an ashy color. On my computer, she is black. Or on my phone, she is black. Hey, Roxanne. Anyway, while admiring her reflection in the water, the young woman swirled with a triumphant look on her face. Her voice quavering with emotion, she sighed and tapped her cheeks. I cannot believe that I am getting married. And I can't believe you dared to betray us. Nuit Noir? Kiana jolted. She had hardly had time to turn around when she felt arms seizing and holding her. Much to her surprise, she recognized the faces of her adoptive family, distorted by an animosity she had never seen before. As Anselm and Huguette were bending her arms behind her back to prevent her from defending herself, Fleur calmly, slowly walked towards her. But she was no longer the sweet and caring little farmer she had known. The one who appeared before her eyes was nothing more than the very incarnation of hatred. With evil eyes, Fleur stopped only a few centimeters away from her chin. It feels good to be the one looking down on others for once. Fleur, I do not understand. What is happening? What's happening is that, while you're dreaming of your shining magnificent palace, we peasants have to break our backs in the hope of escaping from poverty. But the world is unfair. God is unfair. He doesn't necessarily reward those who work hard. I mean, if you believe in God, your reward is supposed to be in the afterlife. In a few weeks, we will have nothing left to eat. In a few weeks, cold and hunger will take us all. But you don't care in the slightest, do you? Kiana remained speechless upon realizing that she had not paid any attention to the harvest results. Guilt washed over her as she finally put the pieces of the puzzle together. So that was the reason why their faces had darkened shortly after the harvest, why they were talking around the fire almost every night, why Anselm was going more often to the church to pray. The princess had ignored the suffering of her adoptive family. She had only thought of herself, and it was now too late to make amends. I am sorry to hear this, Fleur. But once I return to power, everything will be all right. I can promise you that. How could we even believe you when you keep lying to us? What are you going to do with me? It's simple. Fleur is going to take your place and marry the prince. I mean, I'm pretty sure the prince will notice the difference. Like, there are some differences between the two of us. It's like we're not easy to mistake for each other, even if I mean, shit, just the size difference. She's not gonna fit in my dress. She's not like Fleur's not gonna fit in Kiana's dress. That dress is gonna just like it's way bigger than she is. This is absurd. Griselda will immediately notice the difference.
Of course, but the Lord caused quite a commotion when he announced his wedding, and he cares deeply about impressing his guests. I think he won't be able to go back in front of them.
Is she a skin color? Yep. Absolutely, and we have prepared an explanation as well. We will tell him that the princess had been under a spell. Her skin was to remain brown until the day a man with a pure heart would marry her. Ah. Not a bad lie. But I mean, there are just a lot of little differences that anyone would pick up on, just the way we carry each of us carries ourselves. And again, this dress is not going to fit Fleur. She's going to look ridiculous wearing this dress. We will claim that the enchantment is now broken, and that this is her true appearance.
Either he will truly be fooled, and Flo will be able to pose as you. Either he will see right through the lie, and the three of us will be hanged. But if we don't do anything, we're going to starve to death anyway.
Hey. Princess Rosette. Kitty. Puss in Boots. That looks like Puss in Boots. Kitty, 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 kitty. Princess Rosette, 1698, is a fairy tale written by Madame d'Aulnoy, which relates the tribulations of the eponymous princess. Following her birth, fairies foresee that she will put her two brothers in danger. In order to protect them, the king and the queen build a tower to isolate Rosette, but take this secret to the grave with them. When the two brothers finally free her a few years later, she claims that she will not marry anyone but the King of Peacocks, and the both of them leave on a long journey to find him. Hey, Ladybug. Oh, god damn it, it's a fucking incest fairy tale. The King of Peacocks does exist in a faraway kingdom, and he succumbs to the charms of Rosette's portrait after the princes show it to him. Oh, okay, never mind. However, he has trouble believing such a beautiful princess could exist, and only accepts to marry her if the guests stay in prison until her arrival. The two brothers agree and send a letter to Rosette so that she can come. Overjoyed, she immediately boards a ship accompanied by her nurse and her milk sibling. But those two are incredibly jealous, and they scheme with the boatman to throw her overboard, as soon as the Enchanted Kingdom is in sight. The nurse then disguises her hideous daughter as a princess in the hope that the king will be fooled and marry her instead of Rosette. He immediately sees the difference with the portrait, and, enraged, sentences the two brothers to death for making a mockery of him. Okay, so I sort of misunderstood. I misunderstood what this meant. Hey, PK. Exactly. We may as well give it a try. I bet that Fleur will already look like a great lady by putting on one of your dresses. And if I enhance her with a bit of makeup, she can absolutely look the part.
Especially as she perfectly knows how to adapt.
Had a dream my husband was 500 pounds but wanted me smother him. Thoughts? I think you might have some issues, Jordan.
She'll only need to repeat other nobles' turn of phrases or keep silent.
Sadly, that is basically all a princess really needs to do, isn't it? Just repeat what other people say or say nothing at all. No, it cannot be. You cannot do that. Fleur's goodwill. Be nice to Fleur. I got the Fleur's goodwill achievement. With an afflicted look, Fleur spoke. I'm sorry, Kiana. I'd really love to do otherwise, but this is a unique opportunity and we cannot let it pass us by. We're ready to gamble with our lives for a chance, even slim, to get out of the grinding poverty that threatens us. Fleur, I don't know if you were sincere or if you were only pretending to win my trust, but you told me one day that I should be more selfish, that I should stop sacrificing myself for the sake of others. Watch too much JLR? Could be. My connection better? So far, I guess. I think this is the best compromise here. By marrying the prince, a better life awaits me. For the first time in 14 years, I will not have to worry about being hungry. I will not have to break my back all day long just to have some slop on my plate. I'll finally be able to think about myself, take some time to meditate, enjoy life. Of course, I'll also be confronted with many things I don't know, but this doesn't scare me. I'm ready to take up the challenge. I'm ready to learn. No, I'm eager to learn. Human mattress. I want to be able to tell stories as beautiful as yours. For now, I know I'm incapable of that. For now, everything is gray and bleak around me. Everything is only an eternal repetition. Like a rock, I would desperately attempt to roll up to the top of a mountain, only to see it tumble in a split second. Sisyphus reference. Woo. Hey, Scriptgoat. Here's a question. Must one imagine Sisyphus happy? I too want to be happy, Kiana. I too have the right to be happy. The princess could feel her cheeks getting damp in the grip of emotion. Fleur's speech was deeply affecting her, and she was more than willing to help her friend. I am sure of it. You deserve much better, Fleur. But why sacrifice me? We could both be happy. You know very well that it's not possible anymore. You know, I've grown very attached to you in such a short time. I was even beginning to regard you as my own sister. I've been a fool, haven't I? I've been a fool to believe you could care about me. I do care about you, I swear it. Liar! You've betrayed me! All this time I was extending a hand, I was showing you I was ready to accept you. But you rejected me as if I was nothing to you. Can you only imagine how much it hurts? To see my best friend plotting to run away behind my back without even telling me? Without even thinking of making me a part of her plan? Yet that really was my intention. You're nothing but a liar! Don't say a word. I won't believe a thing coming out of your mouth. Your words are snakes. You've despised me. You've mocked me. You've plotted right under my nose. And for that, I cannot forgive you. The young farmer was sobbing just as much as her former comrade, now captive. It was a very strange sight, both of them whimpering, both of them filled with regrets. Finally, Fleur dried her tears and stood up straight. Hey, Troll Police. I'm sorry, Kiana. I really wanted us to be friends, but fate has decided otherwise. I love my family, and I'll do anything to save it, even if it means sacrificing you. That's how it is. Fleur, no, do not do that! Google says you might feel overwhelmed and trapped. Oh, what does Google know? Farewell, Donkey Skin. I'm well aware you'll never be able to forgive me either. But, at least, I hope you'll understand. Kiana was desperate. In spite of her sobs, she struggled as much as she could to release herself from Anselm and Huguette's claws. Inflexible, they stripped her of most of her clothes and grabbed the chest full of sparkling jewelry by force. No matter how many times she shook her hands and feet, it was no use, and she quickly wore herself out. As she could not hold back her tears anymore, she noticed that Fleur was turning her back so that she would not see her. I'm so sorry, Kiana. Moments after, she felt strong hands pushing her back, and she was thrown into the river. Karma is the name of this track. Like most individuals at the time, the princess did not know how to swim, and, having already been drained of her energy upon trying to escape her kidnapper's claws, she could only sink. Her vision became blurry and her mind was overwhelmed by her inability to understand, as the horizon was getting tinged with a deep blue. The sigh of the iridescent reflections coming from the surface, although hazy, had something poetic. The young woman felt light. She felt good. All her worries seemed to fly away like bubbles. Nothing mattered anymore. As she was sinking deeper and deeper, the atmosphere became more and more suffocating as well. The light was slowly fading away, and with it the outside world, the world of the living. The depths were engulfing her, leading her away, faster still, in an inexorable fall. She was running out of air. Her consciousness itself seemed to evaporate. It's a much better Into the Night issues. The truth is just that you're super kinky, Jordan. You got some weird-ass kinks, that's what it is. Why does the dress look amazing underwater, though? Does, kinda. Adds almost like a greenish tinge to... to parts of it. She tried to move, but her time was wasted. Her agony had no end. What should have been the most beautiful day of her life had taken an unthinkable turn, and she felt a knot in her stomach, twisted with bitterness. Why did her story have to end like this? In utter despair, Kiana then remembered the pact she had made with the fairy. Surely could she use her powers to save her? Maybe. But don't call her Shirley. Even her hair looks good underwater. It's because everything gets to spread out underwater. Yeah, everything just gets to, just be bigger underwater. As the princess was readying to summon her godmother in her head, a horrible thought made her doubt. The fairy would only fulfill her wish if she accepted being separated from her most beloved one, which meant that, even if she were able to get out alive of this river, Nahima would not remember her. She would find herself alone and forsaken. That's fascinating. Like, this is a genuinely, like... Her mind doesn't go to the prince, the guy she was about to marry. She doesn't think of the guy she is about to marry as her most beloved one. Her mind still goes back to Nahima, her handmaid. Even though they haven't seen each other in like a year. You know, it's been, I think, over a year since Kiana fled from the castle. But Nahima is still her most beloved one. What you know about everything being big? What you know about everything being bigger under the sea? I just find that's just really sweet to me. The fact that her mind just, at this moment, goes back to Nahima is just really sweet to me. Indecisiveness forced her to reconsider. Kiana consequently decided to wait a few more minutes. Unfortunately, the situation was already utterly out of her control. In no time, she ran out of air. Had she not been underwater, she would have readily screamed, but the aquatic mass drowned her lamentations straight away. A late realization suddenly struck her. She was going to die. Alone at the bottom of this river. Asphyxiated, pupils widened by pure terror, the princess gathered the last of her strength to raise a shaking and convulsing hand. Alright, so we got ourselves a choice here. Have I ever drowned? I have never drowned. So, any preferences? Jordan says die. I'm actually genuinely not... I assume that you actually can die here. You can. You know what? I'm pretty sure we get an... I'm pretty sure there's an achievement for this. So... The pain was unbearable. So unbearable, in fact, that Kiana would rather get rid of her own body and life. Have I ever drowned? Don't screenshot me saying that out of context. Her mind muddled by the terrestrial torments she was enduring, she soon became incapable of thinking straight, and surrendered herself to the hands of God. Thus she perished far too young, doomed by the wheel of fate, before she could even make use of the fairy's power. Her death instantly broke the pact she had made with Medea, and the latter hurried back to the World Tree's side, although she was struck by her ephemeral protege's fate. However, the news did not reach the ears of the unfortunate Nehema, who was still desperately waiting for the return of her mistress. In spite of her duties, she was still regularly cleaning and tidying her room, convinced that Kiana could reappear overnight. Every night she would take a look out of the window and pray. Princess, I know that you could not have possibly forgotten your Nehema. Surely are you unable to send me a message for the moment, but I am persuaded that you are alive and well somewhere, and that you will return to me one day. I will wait as long as necessary, until my very last breath if needed. Greyfriars Nehema. See, as referencing Greyfriars Bobby. If you've ever seen that episode of Futurama with Fry's dog Seymour, Greyfriars Bobby is sort of like one of the real life inspirations for that episode. It's a Scottish thing. Dog who just sort of waited by his owner's grave like day after day after day until the dog died himself. Anyway, yeah, who remembers the dog episode of Futurama? Remember the dog episode of Futurama? Thus the servant spent her life vainly hoping for the return of her friend, but she would never see her again. Too tired to live achievement. Also, I like that dead end. You'd rather not? Hachiko at the train station? Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to... I decided, you know what? Let's make people cry. It's like... Because, I mean, that's always a good way to, like, just get people ready to cry, is to bring up the dog episode of Futurama. Why does he even give you that option? Because why not? Anyway, yes, invoke the fairy. And she resolved to call her godmother. The fairy's voice echoed inside her head straight away. That was stupid. Yes, my child. Godmother, I beg of you, help me. I am stuck. I do not want to die. Please help me. Calm down. Do not forget that we are bound. If this is your wish, I will fulfill it. At least rewrite the story in some way. Nope. Nope, you just die. It gives you the option to just like, fuck it. Guess I'll die. It's that meme of an old guy shrugging. Guess I'll die. I only need you to clearly express what you are expecting me to do. I can save you, but you have to tell me how I should proceed. Just keep dying and see what happens. How? There are many ways to get you out of there. Pronounce your order unambiguously, and I will obey. The young woman stayed quiet for a few seconds. Fear was making her delirious, and she could not control her emotions anymore. It was impossible for her to properly focus. I mean, put me on land? Yet there was an absolute certainty engraved in her heart. She could not allow herself to lose the relationship she had with Nahima. And once again, thinking back to Nahima. She was her only friend, the only person who understood her. There had to be a way to erase her mistake without having to pay the fairy's tribute. Time was running out, and Kiana could not wait anymore. A shameful thought suddenly came to her. If only I could go back time and choose another path. If only I could. If only I could. Her behavior suddenly changed. Medea, allow me to go back in time so that I can have a second chance. Your wish is my command, princess. With these words, the same magic circle which had materialized during their pact appeared before the young woman. It illuminated her with a blinding light, while the fairy was reciting a similar spell. The magic words echoes filled Kiana's heart with fear. What was she doing? Could this charm truly save her? Gears! She did not have time. It's my scarred womanhood. Some of these gears look like they're sort of touching, but they're clearly not, because, like, these two are going opposite directions. Or these two are going the same direction, which wouldn't be possible. All the gears are going the same direction, which means that none of them are actually touching each other. I don't know, there's something about that that kind of bugs me in a weird way. She did not have time to put more thought into it, because everything that was around her disappeared. Her body rose in the air, flapped by a powerful wind, as if she was moving at great speed. The last minutes of her life flashed by backwards, like a furious bull no one could stop. A final thought wandered through her mind. Have I made a mistake somewhere? Without warning, she lost consciousness, and the world ceased to exist. Drowning achievement! Thus began a long, very long, nightmare. Kiana was drifting unconscious in an ocean of darkness, at the border between life and death. At the instigation of the fairy, the thread of time had rewinded itself. The world had reverted to that fateful moment when everything had turned upside down. The surge of time was about to turn its own tide. The dam would not hold much longer. Thus opened the invisible doors. A new cycle could begin. A new choice. Well, damn! The princess brutally regained consciousness on her bed, gasping for air. She had the unpleasant sensation that her vital energy had leapt in a body which had stayed inert for too long, the ill-conceived body of a doll. With bulging eyes, her heart still pounding from the dread, she remained perfectly motionless for a handful of minutes, each more interminable than the last. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Memories were flowing back to her. Feelings, too. Kiana remembered with unparalleled precision the progressive asphyxia that had seized her body. Alone, in this deep blue. Powerless, unable to shout. Sinking always a little more under the resigned gaze of Fleur. Yes, she remembered everything. She remembered her death, down to the very last detail. Shocked by the unsettling imagery which had etched itself into her retina, the princess broke down in tears. Her sobs immediately alerted Nahima, who was positioned in the room. "What is happening, princess? What has happened to you?" The mere sight of her friend redoubled her tears. She had missed her reassuring face so much in her darkest hours that she did not dare to believe in her good luck. Disarmed, the confidant rushed to her side and held her in her arms, consoling her the best she could. "Oh, princess, it hurts me to see you in such a state. What misfortune could have caused this swift grief? You seemed perfectly calm a bit earlier." This trivial sentence aroused the heiress' suspicion. Still lost between the new reality and her confused memories, she was not quite sure what had happened. "A bit earlier?" "I'd gone to see how you were doing, as you were supposed to meet your godmother during the day. You told me that she had agreed to help us, but that we absolutely needed to specify how you would be shielded from your father's grip. You seemed in deep meditation until you suddenly started crying. Have you forgotten already?" "No, of course not." Kiana dried her tears with a blank stare. She had indeed rolled back time, to the night of her pact with the fairy, more precisely. Yet one uncertainty remained. Did it mean that her supposed death was only a bad dream? Or had she been transported by her godmother's powers at the last moment? Since she had been aware of magic's existence, it was as if her bearings had become blurred. Noticing her predicament, Nahima gently enticed her by the hand to the dressing table. "You fell asleep on your bed, did you not? I suppose that all the threats that loom over you disturbed your sleep and made you have a bad dream." "Was it only a dream? Everything seemed so real." Nahima took a comb and began doing her hair. With a soft voice, she caressed her cheek. "The dream world follows its own rules, princess. Try to forget those gloomy visions." Yet Kiana could not quite soothe her still throbbing heart. In disarray, she tried to confess everything. "Nahima, in reality I have already escaped the castle, but things quickly took an unexpected turn. As I was promised to a tragic fate, I invoked my godmother. She is the one who saved me with her magical powers. She enabled me to go back in time to this night. I really did die." "Come now, princess. It is impossible to turn back the clock, even with the powers of a god. The flow of time cannot be stopped. Besides, even if that was true, should I not remember seeing you flee too?" "It could be that the fairy's powers only apply to me." "I mostly think you just had a nightmare and are now disoriented, which is quite understandable after such a day." "But, Nahima, I saw my own death. I cannot ignore such a warning. Shh. Everything is all right. No matter what you have witnessed, you are no longer there. You are here, inside your castle, with me. You are safe." Aside from your dad wanting to bang you. Aside from the fact that your dad wants to have sex with you, you're safe. Kiana submissively obeyed her friend. Even though she was still traumatized by the event, nothing good could come out of her panic. Consequently, she tried her hardest to regulate her respiration and restore a semblance of peace. "How are you feeling?" "A lot better." "I am glad to hear that." "I remain convinced that this is a sign sent to me." "If that is the case, should you not be glad about it?" "What do you mean?" "This experience has assuredly been unpleasant, but if this is a glimpse into your future, then you know how to avoid it. You can correct the mistake that led to your ruin." "Hey, Joel." "You must be right, Nahima. Perhaps I should see this nightmare more as an opportunity rather than a curse." "See, what is most important is for you to move forward." Reassured, the princess recovered her determination and stood up. If the choice she had made last time had led to disastrous result, She only needed to make another one to erase once and for all the specter of death that was haunting her. Let us call my godmother without further delay.
I am already here.
The two young women flinched upon hearing the fairy's voice, as she had once again appeared without warning. The scene had a sense of déjà vu. So this is your true form. How impressive! I think Nahima might be having just a little bit of gay panic there. It's like, oh no, she's scary but hot. This has awakened things. This better not awaken anything in me. Too late, Nahima. Medea's trait seemed to lighten up. Thank you. I will take that as a compliment. Anyway, let us get back to the reason of my presence. Speak, love. How can I help you? I need you to... Can't do that one. I can't try to flee with the skin as a disguise again. This time I have to take Nahima's approach. Pretend to be dead. Godmother, just like in Fennis, I would like to have a magical filter which can rid me of all my senses and make me fall in a deep sleep akin to death. That way, Nahima can get me out of my coffin when nobody is paying attention. Thus, I would be free to leave without raising suspicion, and could seek refuge in a neighboring lord. How astute of you, Princess! I am so glad to be able to participate and lend my support. I can indeed plunge you into magical coma for several days, with a mixture of my own. What is a coma, madam? This is difficult to explain. Coma is a word which does not yet exist. Coma is a word I'm using for the to help the players better understand the situation. Getting another bottle. The store didn't have any of the Pop Shop cream soda, so I got grape instead. It has a bottle of a grape. It has a picture of a grape on it. Not as good as the cream soda. It's okay. So I got a couple bottles of grape and I got a couple bottles of bubble gum as well. Only been live for an hour. For some reason, it feels like I've been live longer. Whoops! I just realized I'm covering the fairy's face. Didn't mean to cover the fairy's face here. Can't go further. Bubblegum Sody? That sounds like you? That don't sound like me? I think I've had it before, and it wasn't bad. I had to choose I had to go with what was available. I had to choose from what was available. Sure as hell wasn't going to get the root beer. Black cherry? Nah. I forget what other flavors were there, but yeah, the flavors, they didn't really have much of the kind that I like. The kinds that I like. You can see into the future? Since time flows differently in the world of fairies, we exist at the same time as your past and your future, which allows us to learn a lot of things. I will explain this to you another time. The fairy turned to Kiana with a serious look. With one deft gesture of her hand, she traced invisible words in the air, and a small vial appeared in her hand. Fancy. Here is a potion. Once you will have taken it, you will become as stiff and pale as a corpse, and you will fall into a deep sleep that will last exactly 3 days. At the end of this period, you will quite normally regain consciousness. Thanks to my magic, there will be no consequences on your metabolism. You will be as fresh and lively as if nothing had happened at all. So there is no risk of you dying of thirst or soiling yourself as a side effect. I like her specifying soiling yourself. Thanks. Thanks, Auntie. Thanks, Godmother. Excellent. I would still advise you to get organized with your servant before drinking the potion, so that she knows what you expect her to do while you were asleep. Thank you for your wise advice, Godmother. Thrilled by the prospect of planning her escape, the princess gratefully kissed the fairy on the cheek. I will be leaving now, my child. You know what to do if you ever need me. Thus, the strange creature disappeared once more. Nahima turned to the heiress with a dash of anxiety on the edge of her lips. How are you going to proceed now, princess? The two young women agreed with one mind that Kiana would drink the filter after laying in her bed, so that the illness would seem more believable. For this... Oh, no. Archive option isn't there yet, so... Nahima would then have to run through the castle and make as much noise as she could. She was all too pleased to do so, and set off to run through all of the corridors to scream her distress. Yeah, that sounds like fun. It sounds like fun, just running around freaking out. That does sound like a good time, honestly. Soon enough, the rumor of the princess' death spread everywhere. The king immediately called the best physicians, while the retainers were gathering in the hall to whisper to each other. It was said everywhere that the heiress had been taken by the same mysterious illness which had claimed her mother, that she had spent the day before her death bedridden, and that the country was cursed. The ploy Kiana had devised seemed to be working perfectly. Barely a few hours after talking with her servant for the last time, the physician announced that she had passed away, and the whole kingdom was mourning her. The transfer of the princess's body soon came into question, as it had been kept in her well-guarded room until then. The king went to contemplate the pale face of the one who had been his daughter in person, while several servants were taking her away to the family crypt. Upon learning this, Nahima panicked. The princess was planned to be buried as soon as possible, because the king had forbidden all ceremonies in her honor except the last rites. She therefore did not have much time left if she hoped to extract Kiana. The latter was now resting in an open coffin in the castle's crypt. Bedbound journey. Here we go. Archives. Hey, we were missing this one before, but now we have it. Comor. Comor is a Breton variation of Bluebeard, told by Emile Sylvestre in The Breton Hearth, 1844. Princess Tryphena is suddenly proposed to by the prince of the neighboring country, the fearsome Comor, who threatens to invade her father's land if she ever refuses. Because he is rumored to be a bloodthirsty man with a compromised reputation, since his 4 previous wives all met an untimely death, the king refuses to let him have his daughter, and the 2 kingdoms are on the brink of war. To convince Tryphena to save the denizens from impending slaughter, Saint Veltas leaves a silver ring with the peculiar properties with her. If Comor were to contemplate killing her, the ring would immediately change color. From a milky white, it would turn raven black. The raven ring, bague de corbeau in French, is thus a jewel of ill omen that warns its wearer of the dangers lying ahead. Neat! The lady-in-waiting immediately wanted to go to the site, as visits were allowed, under the supervision of 2 husky men who were guarding the room night and day. This is a nice image. This is very pretty. When she saw the peaceful face of her mistress lying on a bed of flowers, the young Moor was unable to suppress her emotions. She had to do everything in her power to get her out of here. Nahima attempted to be cunning and asked the guards as innocently as possible if they could bring her some incense while she was meditating over her mistress' remains. Unfortunately, the guards were not that stupid, and retorted she had all the time to do it herself. Agreed, she came back a few minutes later and tried to distract them, in vain, as the 2 men were obstinately immobile. Nahima's fear grew more and more as hours passed, and she came to beg them to leave her alone with the body for a moment, yet they remained unwavering. Even more shaken than before, the lady-in-waiting started to cry, insisting the princess was not dead, only asleep, and that they had to help save her or she would really die. The guards thought the pain had driven Nahima insane, and they called for reinforcements in order to bring her under control. In utter despair, Nahima struggled. She scratched her attackers, screamed murder, that they would all have the heir's death on their conscience. But, ultimately, she could not do anything against the men who were taking her away. Well, that went poorly. This plan went poorly. Isolated under the pretext that she was hysterical, the young woman was imprisoned in one of the dungeon cells, guarded by soldiers who looked as sinister as the others. She was strictly forbidden from approaching the body, or even getting out, until a week after the princess' burial. Thus, Nahima was unable to keep her promise. The servant refused to eat, and spent those few days in the darkness of her cell, talking to herself. Wish I could get some good sleep like that. I know, right? Give me one of those fucking things. Sleep for 3 days straight and then wake up feeling completely refreshed? Hell yeah! It's the dream. Princess, I am sorry. I will not be able to let you escape, and the both of us will not go on an adventure. I would have loved that, really, and I was looking forward to it so much. But Nahima has failed, the idiot. She has failed to act in time. I am so sorry, so very sorry. Well, shit. A few hours later, she was found hanged by her belt in her makeshift cell. At the same time, The heiress was officially buried in the graveyard adjoining the castle. At the end of the 3 days, Kiana regained consciousness as planned. However, as she was softly opening her eyes, she quickly realized that something was wrong. What is... Well, this is the fucking trauma episode. Holy shit, we're fucking... Jesus Christ, drowning? Best friend hanged herself and now we're going to die suffocating in a grave? Jesus Christ, what is this episode? The young woman was shrouded in darkness and did not distinguish anything that could give her clues about her location. Her heart raced in her chest. This was not reassuring at all. She wanted to get back on her feet and then immediately understood how grave the situation was. She simply could not. Grave. Because she's in a fucking grave! Beads of sweat dripped from the corner of her temple as she was touching the edges of her macabre prison. Her realization then hit her right in the chest. She was locked in a box. Not any kind of box. One that was big enough to fit a whole human being. Her pupils widened because of the stupefaction. Impossible! Could this be a coffin? They buried me! The princess tried to keep a semblance of calm, but she had to fight her inner demons to achieve that. It must be a mistake, she thought aloud. Surely Nahima is on her way to collect me. She is just a little late. In order to reassure herself, Kiana paid close attention to the noises around, hoping to detect her friend above her. But she could only hear the wind in the desperately quiet forest. The young woman was buried too deeply for anyone to notice her or even glimpse a ray of light. She did not know night had come for some time now either. It hardly kept her from trying, as she was still thinking she could escape. Is there anybody here? Nahima, is that you? Please, let me out of here. Unable to do anything at all, the princess waited in silence. She could not keep track of the time, yet the suffocation was twisting her perception, and it seemed to her that she had been motionless for hours. Long hours, during which she hoped her servant would come soon. However, she had to face reality. Nahima would not come. Something had happened during her sleep. Something had prevented the servant from fulfilling her mission. Had she been discovered? Or was this revenge on her part? The most absurd theories were passing through Kiana's feverish mind. Soon enough, the narrowness and the obscurity of her prison became unbearable. Her breath got irregular, while her whole body started to violently twitch. Despite all her efforts, the heiress could not suppress the panic taking hold of her anymore. It is so dark. I have trouble breathing. For pity's sake, let me out of here. I cannot take it anymore. I cannot. It has to stop. This nightmare has to stop. A late realization suddenly struck her. She was going to die. Alone in this gruesome coffin. I do not want to die. 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 God, have mercy on me. I do not want to die yet. Choked by the overwhelming heat, pupils widened by pure terror, the princess gathered the last of her strength to raise a shaking and convulsing hand. I mean, may as well just to see how it goes. The pain was unbearable. So unbearable, in fact, that Kiana would rather get rid of her own body and life. Her mind muddled by the terrestrial torments she was enduring, she soon became incapable of... looks like it's basically the same thing. Yep. In that, Kiana met good old Nahima, who was already waiting for her on the other side, and could at least spend eternity in good company. I do not want to die. And she resolved to call her godmother. The fairy's voice echoed inside her head straight away. Yes, my child? Medea, allow me to go back in time so that I can have a second chance. Your wish is my command, princess. Third chance, at this point. With these words, the same magic circle which had materialized during their pact appeared in the young woman's coffin. It illuminated her with a blinding light while the fairy was reciting a similar spell. The magic words' echoes filled Kiana's heart with fear. She did not have time to put more thought into it, because everything that was around her disappeared. Her body rose in the air, flapped by a powerful wind, as if she was moving at great speed. The last minutes of her life flashed by backwards, like a furious bull no one could stop. Without warning, she lost consciousness, and the world ceased to exist. Buried alive achievement! Oops. Kiana was drifting unconscious in an ocean of darkness, at the border between life and death. At the instigation of the fairy, the thread of time had rewinded itself. The world had reverted to that fateful moment, when everything had turned upside down. The surge of time was about to turn its own tide. The dam would not hold much longer. Thus opened the invisible doors. A new cycle could begin. A new choice. Whoops. Meant to move me, not the whole screen. The princess brutally regained consciousness on her bed, gasping for air. She had the unpleasant sensation that her vital energy had leapt in a body which had stayed inert for too long, the ill-conceived body of a doll. With bulging eyes, her heart still pounding from the dread, she remained perfectly motionless for a handful of minutes, each more interminable than the last. Memories were flowing back to her, feelings too. Kiana remembered with unparalleled precision the progressive asphyxia that had seized her body. Alone, in the darkness of her coffin, frantically hitting the walls, screaming, begging in the suffocating silence of the wind. Yes, she remembered everything. She remembered her death down to the very last detail. Shocked by the unsettling imagery which had etched itself into her retina, the princess broke down in tears. Her sobs immediately alerted Nahima, who was positioned in the room. What is happening, princess? What has happened to you? The mere sight of her friend redoubled her tears. She had missed her reassuring face so much in her darkest hours that she did not dare to believe in her good luck. Disarmed, the confidant rushed to her side and held her in her arms, consoling her the best she could. Oh, princess, it hurts me to see you in such a state. What misfortune could have caused this swift grief? You seemed perfectly calm a bit earlier. This trivial sentence aroused the heir's suspicion. Still lost between the new reality and her confused memories, she was not quite sure what had happened. A bit earlier? I had gone to see how you were doing, as you were supposed to meet your godmother during the day. You told me that she had agreed to help us, but that we absolutely needed to specify how you would be shielded from your father's grip. You seemed deep in meditation until you suddenly started crying. Have you forgotten already? No, of course not. Kiana dried her tears with a blank stare. She had indeed rolled back at time, to the night of her pact with the fairy more precisely. Yet one uncertainty remained. Did it mean that her supposed death was only a bad dream? Or had she been transported by her godmother's powers at the last moment? Since she had been aware of magic's existence, it was as if her bearings had become blurred. Noticing her predicament, Nahima gently enticed her by the hand to the dressing table. You fell asleep on your bed, did you not? I suppose that all the threats that loom over you disturbed your sleep and made you have a bad dream. Was it only a dream? Everything seemed so real. Nahima took a comb and began doing her hair. With a soft voice, she caressed her cheek. The dream world follows its own rules, Princess. Try to forget those gloomy visions. Yet Kiana could not quite soothe her still throbbing heart. In disarray, she tried to confess everything. Nahima, in reality I have already escaped the castle, but things quickly took an unexpected turn. As I was promised to a tragic fate, I invoked my godmother. She is the one who saved me with her magical powers. She enabled me to go back in time to this night. I really did die. Come now, Princess. It is impossible to turn back the clock, even with the powers of a god. The flow of time cannot be stopped. Besides, even if that was true, should I not remember seeing you flee too? It could be that the fairy's powers only apply to me. I mostly think you just had a nightmare and are now disoriented, which is quite understandable after such a day. But, Nahima, I saw my own death. I cannot ignore such a warning. Shh, everything is all right. No matter what you have witnessed, you are no longer there. You are here, inside your castle, with me. You are safe, aside from your incestuous father. You're still not safe from him. That's still something that you have to deal with. The fact that your father wants to make you his baby mama. Your daddy wants to also be your baby daddy. Daddy wants to be daddy. I'm sorry. Why not give him the poison and ship him off? I mean, you'd have to convince him to drink it. You'd have to... Hey, Brooklyn. You'd have to figure out a way to trick him into drinking it. Probably not easy. Oh no, WTF. Oh, did you come in at exactly the wrong moment, Brooklyn? I'm very sorry, Brooklyn, if you came in at the exact set wrong moment. It's not the weirdest thing royal families have done. Indeed, it's not. There's a reason for the aristocrats joke, is all I'm gonna say. There is a reason that the aristocrats joke exists. I mean, yes, part of it is to see just, like, a challenge to see just how, just how weird comedians can get, just how extreme comedians can get. But if she had a dragon, this would all be fine. I mean, yeah. Yeah, a dragon does tend to be quite the conflict, quite the way to resolve conflicts. A dragon is a very useful conflict resolution tool. It's like, yes. I see your point. I understand where you're coming from. I definitely understand. But if I may, as a quick counterpoint, fucking dragon. Dragon D's nuts all... Yeah. Dragon D's nuts! Anyway, Kiana submissively obeyed her friend. Even though she was still traumatized by the event, nothing good could come out of her panic. Consequently, she tried her hardest to regulate her respiration and restore a semblance of peace. How are you feeling? A lot better. I am glad to hear that. I remain convinced that this is a sign sent to me. If that is the case, should you not be glad about it? What do you mean? This experience has assuredly been unpleasant, but if this is a glimpse into your future, then you know how to avoid it. You can correct the mistake that led to your ruin. Novel idea. Trapped princess finds a dragon and uses it to topple the patriarchy. Princeless. Not sure if you've ever heard. There's a comic series called Princeless. Written by Jeremy Whitley. I'm blanking on the artists he's worked with on it. I think there's been a few different artists that he's worked with. I don't remember their names, but Jeremy Whitley's the writer for all of it. The idea behind it, it is poking fun at the whole princess in a tower thing. So the protagonist is a princess who was locked into a tower with a dragon guarding her. She decides... It's a comic book. It is a comic book. I think there's like 7 volumes? I think there's been 7 volumes so far. There would be more, except fucking Action Lab, the publisher. Holy shit, are they ever fucking terrible. Anyway, yeah, so Princess decides, you know what, hell with it, I'm going to free myself. And then I'm going to go free all my sisters, who are also, I'm going to go track down all my sisters, because she's got a bunch of sisters. So I'm going to go track down my sisters. I'm going to help other princesses who are trapped in castles. And basically, yeah, Princess takes the dragon that was guarding her and decides, fuck it. And her father is the main antagonist of the story. Sounds pretty good. It is a good series. There's also a spin-off. Raven, Pirate Princess. About a pirate princess who forms a crew of women. Yeah, she gets a ship. She finds a crew that is composed almost entirely of women, and goes to war with her brothers. That series is exceptionally gay. The Raven Pirate Princess is an exceptionally queer comic. Lesbians, bisexuals, asexuals. I think one of them might be a trans woman or something. I don't know. But anywho's, so yeah, and obviously, like, Princeless isn't even the only story out there to play with the idea of princess escaping a tower and deciding to fight back. Anyway, you must be right, Nahima. Perhaps I should see this nightmare more as an opportunity rather than a curse. See? What is most important is for you to move forward. Reassured, the princess recovered her determination and stood up. If the choice she had made last time had led to disastrous result, she only needed to make another one to erase once and for all the specter of death that was haunting her. Incidentally, upon consideration, Kiana did not even have to change her strategy. No matter the nature of her vision, she had now acquired knowledge from the timeline of her death. She knew what was going to happen by carrying on such and such actions, which provided her a certain advantage. It is possible to distort the course of things and shape a new outcome by using this precious data. For instance, she was convinced that fleeing with the donkey skin was the right solution. An error in execution admittedly foiled her plan, but she was starting on a sound basis. After all those sweet moments spent in Griseld's company, she was even more intent on marrying him. Let us call my godmother without further delay. I am already here. I love how this is the third time it's happened, and Kiana's still getting surprised. Like, God damn it! Stop doing that! The two young women flinched upon hearing the fairy's voice, as she had once again appeared without warning. The scene had a sense of déjà vu. So this is your true form. How impressive. And once again, Nahima having a little gay disaster moment. Medea's traits seemed to lighten up. Thank you. I will take that as a compliment. Anyway, let us get back to the reason of my presence. Speak, love. How can I help you? For some reason, I feel like an Irish accent would work really well for her. I feel like Medea should have like an Irish accent. I need you too. No. Alright, so it's going back and forth between these two options. Flee with the skin as a disguise. Realizing that she was now holding all the cards, Kiana decided to persevere and make the exact same request. Godmother, I believe an invisibility spell is a little to ask. As such, I would like you to do me this favor, so that I can escape the castle dressed in the donkey skin. The fairy frowned with a hint of distrust. Well, I do not know where you have heard this sort of rumor, but this is absolutely right. If you so desire, I would joyfully help you, and... Allow me to ask you one last service. Since my goal is to seek refuge with a neighboring lord, I will need to bring with me evidence of my social status. Would you happen to have at your disposal a magic chest of sorts that would allow me to bring my most beautiful clothes? Her eyes still veiled with doubts. The fairy traced some invisible words in the air, and a stick magically appeared. She handed it to Kiana moments after with a crooked grin. As the princess was about to grab the hazel rod, Medea slyly withdrew her hand. I need to explain its functioning to you. Kiana gulped upon catching the intimidating eye of the creature. Had she understood? It suddenly seemed obvious that she could not envisage deceiving her. Whatever she did, her godmother would eventually perceive her true intentions. As she was trying to regain her composure, the princess caught the item with a polite smile. It will indeed not be necessary. Much to her surprise, Medea remained imperturbable and did not insist. Is this all you desire? Yes, godmother. Kiana then turned to Nahima in the hope of forestalling her protests. Luckily, the young Moor was too amazed by her attitude to realize what was going to follow. You already know how to use this magic wand, princess? And how were you aware that your godmother could make you invisible? It is a long story. Let us say that we have mentioned the various means of planning my evasion this afternoon. Oh, I see. This would explain many things. But in that case, why did she look so surprised to hear you talk about it? The princess bit her lip with vexation. The smallest lie threatened to lead her in a tumultuous zone, and she risked wasting time by trying to justify herself. She had to cut this conversation short, and fast. Listen, Nahima, we have far more pressing matters to attend to for now. Nahima is your favorite? She is cool. I do like Nahima. Oh, you are right, princess. I did not want to bother you. I kind of want to romance Nahima. I'd like to go down the romance path with Nahima if possible. Kiana let out a discreet sigh of relief. She was now able to move on to the next step. Suddenly placing both of her hands on her friend's shoulders, she looked her straight in the eye, which resulted in Nahima blushing furiously. Princess, what are you... Nahima, what I am going to tell you is very important. Would you hear me out? Of course. The path that lies ahead of me will be fraught with hazards. My exile will be bitter, and I am sure that I will rue your absence many times. Yet, even if it costs me dearly to say this, I must go alone. The guards will immediately recognize me if you are by my side, and I cannot allow myself to put you in danger. But fear not, this will only be temporary. As soon as I will have successfully obtained protection from a lord, my priority will be to send a letter to tell you where I am, and invite you to join me. Nahima opened her mouth to reply, but no sound came out. So Kiana said with a honeyed voice, Do you swear that you will not forget me, Nahima? The young Moor instantly regained her usual upright stature and cleared her throat. Come on, princess, what were you thinking? Forget you? Over my dead body! I am glad to hear that. Does that mean that you're giving me permission to leave? Of course. You have my blessing. Yeah, like that Griselle, that Prince Griselle, he seems like he might be kind of a douche. You know, like threatening a farmer who because one of his own retainers, one of his own retinue almost ran the farmer over. Fuck off. Nahima's a sweetheart. She would never do something like that. Though I suspect she would absolutely throw down with anyone who tried to... who said anything bad about Kiana. Even so, days will seem so long without you, so do not keep me waiting for too long. I knew I could count on you. Translating words into actions, the princess rushed up to her friend, and the two maidens threw themselves into each other's arms, under the inscrutable eyes of the fairy. While the retainer was delighted that her mistress was showing her some affection, the latter was already anticipating the moment of her reunion with Lord Griseld. Impatient, Kiana hastened to use the wand and fill the magic chest with her most beautiful dresses, before finally donning the donkey skin. She turned to the fairy and her friend. I must go. Wish me luck. Let me hear from you soon, princess. Godmother, do what you have to do. The creature moved forward with an indescribable expression. Blocking the moonlight with her gigantic shadow, she planted herself before Kiana without uttering a single word. Was she going to make a comment? She felt her heartbeat accelerating in her chest. In silence, Medea cast the spell to make the young woman entirely transparent. There you are, now invisible. Be extremely careful. You can count on me, Godmother. I am leaving at once. I promise you that my exile will be short, Nahima. Be careful, Princess. With these brief farewells, Kiana vanished into the castle's corridors, under the defeated look of her servant, still disappointed and worried. She exclaimed in a sigh, Will I ever see her again? The fairy, who had stayed oddly silent during their embrace, tried to comfort her and put a kind hand on her shoulder. There, do not cry. I know I should not, but I have a bad feeling about this. As if nothing will ever be the same again. I know I should not, but I have a bad feeling about this. As if nothing will ever be the same again. You who are so powerful, can you see the future? Can you tell me if everything is going to be all right? The limbo creature was deep in thought for a moment before quietly answering. Do not worry, my child. I shall watch over her. A few meters away, Kiana was stealthily sneaking through the castle's corridors. She stopped for a few moments to unhook a torch placed against the stone wall, while avoiding the guard who had previously manifested himself. This time, she had no need to consult Nahima. Or she had had no need to consult Nahima. She was already familiar with the pathway followed by retainers, and went straight for the rowboat, which seemed to be waiting for her. One thing off my list, she exclaimed when she was in the midst of waters. Now I have to cross the forest to reach Griselda's kingdom. The prospect of sinking into the woods in the middle of the night was not exactly to the maiden's taste, given her previous experience. She recalled how humiliating and terrifying it had been for her to keep the vegetation away and wade in the mud without knowing where she was going. Worse still, she had no guarantee that she would manage to find her way a second time. After all, she had to wander for hours that time, and had only come back on a practicable path by sheer luck. Yet she had to ensure she would not be spotted, especially by the king's men. The princess clearly remembered how she had crossed paths with horse riders during her previous evasion, and she certainly did not want to come face to face with them. Kiana sighed deeply. She had no other option. This too shall pass. Torch in hand, she entered the forest's surroundings, but chose to stay in the vicinity of the road, watching it with great caution. With this compromise, she was hoping to avoid getting lost, while having the possibility to hide the moment any suspicious sound would resound. Her disappearance should not be noticed before sunrise, which gave her a little leeway to walk as long as her legs would allow her. Although the forest's atmosphere was as oppressive as ever, the young woman tried to focus on something else, both as a way to reassure herself and so that time would go by more quickly. She rummaged through her thoughts, seeking for any element that could distract her, and her mind dwelled on Fleur. Mechanically, Kiana stopped for a few seconds. Fleur. Her memory was still haunting her. Everything had happened so quickly, so abruptly. One moment they were the best friends in the world, the next they were deadly enemies. Even though farm life had certainly been no bed of roses, she had spent magical moments with the Anselm family, her adoptive family. Among other things, she remembered Fleur's pranks, particularly her penchant for water battles in the stream to escape the heat, the pride she had felt by earning her meal, by learning to make cheese, but also the nights of vigil where they would gaze at the stars, the rainy days confined in the shack where they would tell stories. The young farmer's smile could not have been a lie, not after all those things they had experienced together, the hardships they had both overcome. Yet those wonderful days had almost been erased by the hateful expression Fleur had displayed that day before coldly sentencing her to death. How could they have come to that? Where had Kiana been mistaken? One image came to her mind. The adolescent was yelling amidst her sobs, red with anger. Liar! You've betrayed me! I was extending a hand and you've rejected me! princess was struck with the realization. What if she had shared her identity with Fleur earlier? What if she had explained to her that she intended to compensate her family for their hospitality? Perhaps the young girl would have understood. Perhaps she would have appreciated the gesture. Perhaps she would have caught sight of the light at the end of the tunnel of misfortunes that had descended upon her. There was no way to know with certainty now. Yet Kiana could not help but think that she had probably been overconfident, that she could have talked about her plan to her friend. The latter had seemed so desperate. Perhaps if the princess had paid more attention, she would have noticed the Anselm family's distress. A distress so powerful that it had compelled the farmers to commit cold-blooded murder. They were ready to put their lives on the line. Kiana stepped over a root while watching over the road with a pensive look. Deep down in her heart, she did not quite know what to make of the treason of Fleur and her parents. Could she forgive them? In truth, this was of little importance. Now that she possessed this fabulous power, the princess felt lonelier than ever. She had attempted to explain the situation to Nehima, but she did not appear to want to hear what she had to say. It was hard to blame the servant. Her ramblings about time travel must seem so bizarre. Kiana froze once again to let out a sigh. I suppose that such is the fate of all exceptional individuals. We must carry our burden in solitude.
How humble!
She's so humble, isn't she? I cannot talk about my past experiences in other timelines to anyone, not even Nehima. This is a gift that has been bestowed upon me so that I could change the future. I must prove that I am worthy of it. Even though the torch's flickering flame shed the necessary light for her journey, it was not enough to protect the princess from the ambient cold. As she kept shivering, she soon became unable to think straight and decided it was very much the right moment to take a welcome break. She then explored her surroundings and, after a while, eventually found a hollow tree. The crack was large enough for her to slip inside and curl up in a position that would allow her to retain the maximum amount of heat. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Retain the maximum amount of heat possible. Satisfied, she took a last look around in order to memorize her current position. She then quenched her torch and placed it on a trunk in plain view, so that its end would indicate the direction of the road. With this done, she settled in her makeshift shelter and fell asleep. Torch is gonna be gone. And no doubt thanks to the new habit of sleeping on a plain mat she had developed with the farmers, Kiana woke up at daybreak in far better conditions than previously. After swiftly stretching out, she went to pick up her extinguished torch and decided to turn it into a walking pole for the rest of the day. Repeating the same strategy as the night before, the young woman continued along the forest border while keeping an eye on the path. At one point, she took the liberty of briefly getting out of the woods to read a sign and discovered, delighted, that she was already in Prince Griselda's kingdom. At another point, the rumble of galloping horses invited her to crouch behind a bush. Understanding that it was indeed her father's horse riders, the princess evaluated that she could now walk directly on the road without fear. She was then blinded by the dazzling rays of the sun for a few moments. When she finally became able to distinguish her surroundings again, she was pleased to discover a familiar landscape. It was the valley where she had met Fleur for the very first time, the same valley she had strode along numerous times before, driving the animals to pasture. Kiana recognized the lake near which she had talked with Prince Griselda, and the towers of his castle in the distance, the castle she had never visited. A wave of nostalgia overwhelmed her without warning. As she was busy admiring the pastoral view lying before her, the princess suddenly noticed figures moving amidst the fields. She stopped breathing. Could it be? She had to be sure. Internally seething, Kiana hurried up and kept moving forward, until she was able to surmise that it was a shepherdess and her sheep. The coincidence seemed too strong. The time, the place, there was every reason to believe that this kid was. Little by little, she became certain that it was indeed Fleur who was joyfully trotting around in her direction. The princess' heart was racing so hard in her chest that she firstly did not know what to do. Should she speak to her? Ignore her? If she were to lie on Nahima's incredulous reaction, it would be unlikely that the farmer would remember anything. The two maidens were nothing more than strangers now. Fiona could not entirely convince herself that all those moments of complicity had just disappeared. But how should she behave around her? Let's call it an end. Let's end it here. Next time, we will have our first meeting with Fleur. And, alright, so now I understand the Chronotopia part. Time travel! Hurrah! And I enjoy time travel stories. I don't know about the rest of you, but I enjoy time travel. Back in the skin, yep. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but I do like time travel stories. Sometimes. Depends on the story, I suppose. But in general, I enjoy them. I know a lot of people find time travel stories confusing. I've never really had that problem. So, yeah, so thanks for coming. As always, I've had a good time. Hope you have. Despite my bad joke about Daddy wanting to be Daddy. But thanks for coming. And don't need me to smother you to sleep? Indeed, I don't. Thank you for the offer, Jordan, but I'll be fine. I don't need you to smother me to sleep. I'll manage, Jordan. But thank you for the offer.